Hola chicos, mi nombre es Jessica, bienvenidos a mi canal. En el día de hoy les voy a leer esta novela que se llama The Boy in the Striped Pajamas, el chico de las payamas con rayas, de John Boyne. Dice soon to be a motion picture, pero ya este libro tiene unos añitos, ya hay una película de este libro. Y vamos. Today we're gonna read the novel The Boy in the Striped Pajamas by John Boyne. It says here soon to be a major motion picture, but since this book already has a few years, there's already a movie about this book. So let's read this counterpart here. He says here, if you start to read this book, you will go on a journey with a 9-year-old boy named Bruno. Though this isn't a book for 9-year-olds. And sooner or later, you will arrive with Bruno at the fence. Fences like this exist all over the world. We hope you never have to encounter one. Wow, borders. Like, I never had the experience of borders, sadly. Family member told me that it was this very huge bookstore, library. And it was very pretty, cool, and all the adjectives. But sadly, it didn't come to that experience. Like, oh well. Let's see. The Boy in the Street Pajamas by John Boyne. Have some reviews here. The Boy in the Street Pajamas. A fable. I didn't know it was a fable. David Ficklin Books. Oxford, New York. Okay, this book is from 2006. Don't me say. Okay. Chapter 1. Bruno makes a discovery. One afternoon, when Bruno came home from school, he was surprised to find Maria, the family's maid, who always kept her head bowed and never looked up from the carpet, standing in his bedroom, pulling all his belongings out of the wardrobe and packing them in 4 large wooden crates, even the things he'd hidden at the back that belonged to him and were nobody else's business. "What are you doing?" he asked in as polite a tone as he could muster, for all that he wasn't happy to come home and find someone going through his possessions. His mother had always told him that he was to treat Maria respectfully and not just imitate the way father spoke to her. "You take your hands off my things." Maria shook her head and pointed towards the staircase behind him, where Bruno's mother had just appeared. She was a tall woman with long red hair that she bundled into a sort of net behind her head, and she was twisting her hands together nervously, as if there was something she didn't want to have to say or something she didn't want to have to believe. "Mother," said Bruno, marching towards her. "What's going on? Why is Maria going through my things?" "She's packing them," explained Mother. "Packing them?" he asked, running quickly through the events of the previous few days to consider whether he'd been particularly naughty or had used those words out loud that he wasn't allowed to use, and was being sent away because of it. He couldn't think of anything though. In fact, over the last few days he had behaved in a perfectly decent manner to everyone and couldn't remember causing any chaos at all. "Why?" he asked them. What have I done?" Mother had walked into her own bedroom by then, but Lars, the butler, was in there, packing her things too. She sighed and threw her hands in the air in frustration before marching back to the staircase, followed by Bruno, who wasn't going to let the matter drop without an explanation. "Mother," he insisted, "what's going on? Are we moving?" "Come downstairs with me," said Mother, leading the way towards the large dining room where the fairy had been to dinner the week before. "We talk down there." Bruno ran downstairs and even passed her out on the staircase, so that he was waiting in the dining room when she arrived. He looked at her without saying anything for a moment, and thought to himself that she couldn't have applied her makeup correctly that morning because the rims of her eyes were more red than usual, like his own after he'd been causing chaos and got into trouble and ended up crying. "Now, you don't have to worry, Bruno," said Mother, sitting down in the chair where the beautiful blonde woman who had come to dinner with the fairy had sat and waved at him when Father closed the doors. "In fact, if anything, it's going to be a great adventure." "What is?" he asked. "Am I being sent away?" "No, not just you," she said, looking as if she might smile for a moment, but thinking better of it. "We all are. Your father and I, Gretel and you. All four of us." Bruno thought about this and frowned. He wasn't particularly bothered if Gretel was being sent away because she was a hopeless case and caused nothing but trouble for him. But it seemed a little unfair that they all had to go with her. "But where?" he asked. "Where are we going exactly? Why can't we stay here?" "Your father's job," explained Mother. "You know how important it is, don't you?" Okay. "Yes, of course," said Bruno, nodding his head because there were always so many visitors to the house, men in fantastic uniforms, women with typewriters that he had to keep his smoky hands off. And they were always very polite to Father and told each other that he was a man to watch, and that the fairy had big things in mind for him. "Well, sometimes when someone is very important," continued Mother, "the man who employs him asks him to go somewhere else because there's a very special job that needs doing there." "What kind of job?" asked Bruno, because if he was honest with himself, which he always tried to be, he wasn't entirely sure what job Father did. In school they had talked about their fathers one day, and Carl had said that his father was a greengrocer, which Bruno knew to be true because he ran the greengrocer's shop in the center of town. And Daniel had said that his father was a teacher, which Bruno knew to be true because he taught the big boys who it was always wise to steer clear of. And Martin had said that his father was a chef, which Bruno knew to be true because he sometimes collected Martin from school, and when he did, he always wore a white smock and a tartan apron, as if he'd just stepped out of his kitchen. But when they asked Bruno what his father did, he opened his mouth to tell them, then realized that he didn't know himself. All he could say was that his father was a man to watch, and that the fairy had big things in mind for him. Oh, and that he had a fantastic uniform too. "It's a very important job," said Mother, hesitating for a moment. "A job that needs a very special man to do it. You can understand that, can't you?" "And we all have to go too?" asked Bruno. "Of course we do," said Mother. "You won't want Father to go to his new job on his own and be lonely there, would you?" "I suppose not," said Bruno. "Father will miss us all terribly if we weren't with him," she added. "Who will he miss the most?" asked Bruno. "Me or Gretel?" "He will miss you both equally," said Mother, for she was a great believer in not playing favorites, which Bruno respected, especially since he knew that he was her favorite really. "But what about our house?" asked Bruno. "Who's going to take care of it while we're gone?" Mother sighed and looked around the room, as if she might never see it again. It was a very beautiful house and had 5 floors in total, if you included the basement, where Cook made all